All right, guys. This review will probably go pretty fast. Everything you've already learned, usually I just post an answer key to the review. However, I have to make the key, so I may as well just do it with the video. I would suggest if you are truly struggling with this stuff that you watch the old videos, and please also put this on a slow speed. So maybe go and on YouTube change this to zero point 0.5 speed or 0.75 speed as I explain what's going on. All right, so the directions for the entire thing are to simplify the square roots, which means we need to use this list that we have developed throughout the entirety of our time together. Maybe even on the quiz, I'll have you develop your own. It would not be a bad idea, or maybe save some time, I'll give it to you. But when you take those keystones, you have to develop that list first thing. So as you go to your list, you need to find the first thing. So 98 is not acceptable. So if you look, I don't get a perfect square, which means I need to figure out what two numbers go into 98. Remember, one of your numbers needs to go through your list. I know that 49 is my perfect square from my list that goes into 98. The square root of 49 is 7, and the 2 drops down. So that is the simplified version. Take a look how 49 was on your list. The square root of 25 is perfect. Now, why is it perfect? Because it's on your list. The square root of 25 is a perfect 5. So you can move on. The square root of 100 is also a perfect square root. I'll just write the word perfect here so you remember. So the answer is just 10. It's not 10 square roots of 10, it's just 10. All right, let's take a look at 108. Now, 108 is not on my list. If you take a look, you do not get a perfect answer. So I'm going to start at my list at 49. That doesn't work. Then I'm going to make my way to 36, and there it is. So 108 gets broken apart into two square roots. One is 36, one is 3. Square root of 36 is 6, square root of 3 left over. Now what I do is I have to multiply them together. I have to join them to be 1. So 50 times 3 is 150. So that's what goes inside your square root. And then I have to use my list to figure out what goes into 150, because if you look at my calculator, 150 is not a perfect square root. So I'm going to break it apart into 25. I know that 25 is my answer, only because I've worked with numbers for a long time now. And the square root of 25 is a 5, and the square root of 6 drops down. If you weren't sure as fast as I was, you would have to sit there and divide by all of them. Now, before I start this one, I need to divide my Radicand. So I end up with just the square root of 81 after I divide. The square root of 81 is perfect. Because it's perfect, I just get a perfect 9 as my answer. The square root of 81 is a perfect 9, so I don't need to divide by anything. Now I'm going to do 4 times 49 on this one, 4 times 49. And excuse me, I know I do get, so I did this one on purpose, the square root of 196, which just so happens to be a perfect square. So my answer is just a plain 14. So if you look on your list, 196 is on there, and the answer is just a plain 14. Now, if it was not on there, you'd have to go through the process of dividing. So 288 divided by 8 is also, again, a perfect square of 36, so the final answer is 6. Now, here's what we're going to do, because I'm not happy that both of those are perfect squares. I'm going to change this on the notes, and I'm going to make you divide by, let's see, can I do by 3? Okay, I'm going to make you divide by 3 instead on the note, on the practice. I'm going to change that right here. I have a Word document up. So when you come to this problem, you won't be dividing by 8, you will be dividing by 3 like I am. Okay, so 288 divided by 3, I get the square root of 96. However, this is not a perfect square. It's not on my list. It's not a pretty answer. So I have to break 96 up into its two perfect squares. So you can do like 96 divided by 49, 96 divided by 36, 96 divided by 25, 96 divided by 16. We've been doing this for a long time, so hopefully you know that process there. The square root of 16 is 4, and the square root of 6 hops down. Okay, now for number 9. What are the values of x represents one as a whole number? 1008 divided by x is a whole number. So let's try dividing by 5. So if we do the square root of 1008 divided by the square root of 5, ew, I get a decimal. That's not going to work. So now let's do 1008 divided by 3. Okay, so that does at least divide. So that's going to be the square root of 336. However, I want a whole number, which means I need a square root of a perfect square. 336 is not a perfect square. So now I need to do 7. So 1008 divided by the square root of 7. That gives me 144. Aha, here it is. When you take the square root of 144, you get a perfect 12, which means it is a whole number, so that's your answer. You don't have to try D. C is your answer. Now we need to end up getting 5 square roots of 3 when we plug these numbers in for x. So the first one we'll do, we'll plug in 2. Okay, so I'm going to do square root of 50 times 2 over square root of 2. Now I'm plugging in for the x right there. That's why I put the 2 where I did. So that's 1 square root of 100 over the square root of 2, which when I divide, I get the square root of 50. Then I use my list to break it apart. That's going to be 25 with a 2, which is 5 square roots of 2. Boom. Option A is my answer. I will, however, just for the majority of you who might be a little confused, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you how like C is not the answer, just in case you're wondering, like, well, what does it look like if it's not the answer? So in for X went 5, so that would be 50 times 5 is 250, and that's going to be divided by 2. 250 divided by 2 is the square root of 125. And then you have to break it apart like we normally have been. I think 25 is going to be your perfect answer. You get 5, so that's 5 square roots of 5. But that's not what they wanted. Oh, I told you A was the answer. That was a really big lie. A was not the answer. Rewind. Actually, I'll just redo the video there. Why was it not the answer? Oh. Okay, so I had to rewind the video because I got too excited. I thought that was the answer. I need 5 square roots of 3, not 5 square roots of 2. So A is not the answer. Let's try B. So let's do the square root of 50 times 3 over the square root of 2. So I'm going to get a 3 in there for x. So this is square root of 150 over the square root of 2. Well, when you divide, you just get 75 because 150 divided by 2 is 75. Then I break that apart into 2 separate square roots, which are 25 and 3. Again, I would have to use that yellow list, and the first number on my list that worked would be 25. And then that is 5 square roots of 3. And that's your answer. So that's the one that gives you 5 square roots of 3. So I showed you one that does work and one that doesn't work. Now moving on to number 11, we're going to slow down. So we got to put these things together. There are some outside numbers that we have to deal with. When I did this, I tried to highlight the outside numbers in pink and then I did the inside numbers in green so that when we came to the multiplying step, you knew that the outside number had to go together and the inside numbers had to go together with multiplication. So 2's on the outside and 270 on the inside. 270 came from 3 times 90 and the 2 just dropped down. Now step 1, we bring down this 2, there it is, and we break apart 270. 270 divides by the perfect square of 9. You get 9 and 30. Again, you would have to have your list by you and work your way through your list. Step 2, the 2 drops down, the 9 becomes a 3, and the square root of 30 stays. And then step 3, 2 times 3 makes 6, and the square root of 30 hops down. Number 12. Multiply them together if you can, which in this case we can. 5 times 45 is 225. Now it is important that at this moment I need you to realize that this is perfect. Why is it perfect? Because it's on your list. Let me go grab the list and show you. There it is. And you can see that 225 surely is on your list and the square root of it is a 15. There's nothing else that needs to be done on this problem. Would you mind opening that door for me, please?
You need to turn these scents off.
Okay. In number 13, you need to multiply the outside numbers together. So -2 with a 5. And yes, that was a student trying to break down my door, apparently. And thank you for doing that. When you multiply them, you get -10. So -2 times 5 makes -10. And then when you multiply 4 and 6, you get 24. So step 1, the -10 drops down, and we need to break apart our 24. As we work our way through our list, 4 is the only number that goes into 24, so it's broken down like that. So step 2, bring down the 10, the 4 becomes a 2, and the square root of 6 is left behind. Step 3, you need to multiply those two answers together. -10 times 2 is -20, and the square root of 6 drops down. Number 14, the outside number is a 3, and that's the only outside number, and the inside numbers are 10 and 2. So step, so the first thing we need to do is to multiply those two items together. So the 3 stays on the outside and the insides become 20. What are you missing? Your iPad. Did you leave it in here? He hasn't been in here. He took your iPad. This is literally in my recording. Where'd you get that, please? So step 1, you need to bring down the outside 3, and we got to break apart the 20. The 20 gets broken apart into its perfect square of 4. Anything you guys say is being recorded. Um, into a perfect 4 and into a 5. Do you know where his iPad is? Okay. Number 2, you bring down the 3, the square root of 4 turns into a 2, and then you have the square root of 5. Step 3, you need to multiply the 3 and the 2 to get a 6, and then the 5 drops down. All right, for the next 3 problems, we're going to talk about what to do with variables. So the same first step or the first check exists. We need to multiply these together before we can do anything else. There's no outside numbers for me to even highlight in pink, so we just need to multiply the inside radicands together. So we do 4 times 128, which is 512. And then that's going to be a to the 8th because of 3 plus 5. Step 1, I'm going to drop down anything in the front, which there is nothing. And then since 512 isn't perfect, I need to break it apart. Let's see, 512, it does divide by 4. Oh dear. Okay, it's going to be 256. Okay, so if I do 512 divided by 256, you end up getting a 2. So there's your 256 and there's your 2. And then with variables, I draw them out while you guys are still learning them. I mean, maybe some of you don't have to draw them out, that you can like figure it out. But if you can't, there's like certainly no harm in just drawing them out. So the 256 is the perfect square root, and that ends up being a 16. And then the square root of 2 hops down, and then let's see. I have 4 groups of A, so here's your A to the 4th, and there are none left inside, like they all got paired up. So then I drop down my 16 and my A to the 4th in the front, and the square root of 2 hops behind it. Now for number 16, we have to multiply them together first. You have to like kind of join them together. So you're going to multiply the green with the green, and then the pink just goes out in front, and there's only one pink. So there's the 4. When you multiply 3 and 33, you get 99, and that's going to be n to the 7th because of the 2 plus the 5. Now what we're going to do is just go through our normal steps. So drop down your 4. The 99 is going to get broken apart, and then the n7 is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 99 divides by your list, but you would have to work all the way down till you got 9 and 11. So in step 2, the 4 drops down, the 9 becomes a 3, the square root of 9 becomes a 3, the square root of 11 stays, and we have to pair up our n's. So I see 3 pairs of n's with 1 left over. My final answer is the 4 times the 3, which makes the 12. The n3 goes behind it, and then the square root 11 and end. Now this one has a lot going on, so I'm just going to show you that the 4 and the 3 became the 12. The n3 goes in with it. The 11 and the n stay inside. So the things on the outside join together, and then the things on the inside join together. Now number 17. You multiply them together. So I have a negative 3 times a 2, which makes a negative 6. And then I have a 20x with a 15x to the 6th. 20 times 15 is 300. And then that's going to be x to the 7th because it's 1 plus 6. So you drop down for step 1. We drop down your negative 6. We break 300 apart, and we draw 7 x's. Oh, I didn't mean for this to be 7 as well. That's okay. Actually, do I want to fix it? No, I don't want to fix it. It's fine. So 300, as you make your way through the list, will divide by the perfect square of 100 on the yellow numbers, times 3. Step 2, you drop down the 6. The square root of 100 is a 10. The square root of 3 stays. You have three like double like pairs of x's, and then you have that one stuck inside. There's the one stuck inside in that dark black. Step 3, you multiply your -6 with your 10 to get -60. Your x to the 3 drops down, and the inside is a 3 and an x. So the inside comes from this 3 and this x. And then you can see there's a whole bunch of stuff on the outside. We had our -6 with our 10 with our x3. All right, and that's the end of it. And now just some quick review of Algebra 1, which should be foundational for your keystones. What inequality represents the following solution set? I can make this full screen now. So we always find our y-intercept first. So like when we do like y equals mx plus b, it's always important to find your y-intercept as b. Then you go from there to the next like perfect crossing like intersection in the grid. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 up, 1, 2 over to the right, and that's your slope. So our inequality is going to be 5 over 2x minus 4 because of the y-intercept and the slope. This is shaded below the line, so it's less than, and it's a solid line, so it's equal to. So y is less than or equal to 5 over 2x minus 4. Absolute values always have two answers. Remember, if it equals a negative over here, it's automatically a no solution. So it's 2x minus 3 equals 9, and 2x minus 3 equals -9. And then you solve both of those because absolute values have two answers. Add 3, 2x equals 12, divide by 2, x is 6. Your first answer is 6. Add 3, and FYI, the other answer is not -6. Some kids think that. 2x equals -6, divide by 2, x equals -3. So your two answers are 6 and -3. And that's it for the review. The key will look very similar to this, the same amount of problems. You'll have 3 with variables. You have some that are perfect, some that aren't perfect. And we'll call it a day.